How you doing, guys? Today we are in the shed again. We're going to be cutting a new long-range frame. Since the last video I made some changes with the CNC. We have the Fox Alien HFS 800 now mounted to the CNC. The CNC I am using is the XE Pro from Fox Alien. Everything is standard on it apart from, completely standard, sorry. The motor, the spindle is standard, sorry. Yeah, everything is standard on it. So I'll be cutting some 3mm carbon fibre today. This is 500 by 300mm and it's 3mm thick. The way I mount this onto the CNC is pretty simple. I run some frog tape on the bottom. I put some super glue across here, all across the tape, and then I plonk it down onto some more frog tape, which is taped down onto the board, and that pretty much works pretty well for me. There's probably better methods of doing it, but this is a simple way of doing it for me, so that's the way I've chosen to do it. The frame I'm going to be cutting is a long-range frame that I designed a while ago. So this is the frame that I designed probably about December. It is a 10-inch frame, so it's pretty damn big. If you look at the size of it to the size of my head, it's pretty big. The main goal of this frame was mainly long range. The GoPro sits on the front here, and then my batteries will go underneath. Then I got two SMAs there for the antennas for the video feed. And the experience with this frame was it is just too big for me. If I want to travel with this, which is what I made it for, it is a bit of a nightmare. I know I could take the props off and it brings it down a bit smaller, but it is still too big to travel with. The flight performance from this is pretty good. It is not a 5-inch, but it is on the heavy side, to be honest with you. The motors I'm running on here are pretty big and beefy, so that does weigh it down a bit, and the props as well. These are the HQ props, the 10-inch props. They are kind of heavy as well. I think these are 26 grams, and then the motor are about 110 grams, maybe a bit more. So it's a pretty heavy setup, but it does fly well. So the goal today is to make a smaller, compact version of this. So it's going to be slightly smaller, slightly lighter. It's going to be 3mm all the way around, where this one here we got 4mm arms here, and then we got 3mm on the top and bottom plate. The motor plates as well, they are 3mm, and then we got a 5mm spar going across here to strengthen it up. It's going to be practically the same design, not really some major changes to it, other than it's going to be a bit smaller. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I'll take you along cutting the frame, and then I'll probably either include the build process of the frame in this video, or I'll make another video. I haven't decided yet, and what I'll do is I'll compare this one to the smaller one so you can see the differences. But yeah, that's it. So let's get into it now, and we'll start cutting. Here we go. So I'm just trimming off the excess of the frog tape on the CNC bed. I've already trimmed the frog tape on the carbon, so cut that off now, and then we'll glue it on top. So just trim this off. Just to tidy it up a bit so it doesn't get in the way. That, and then we'll trim the back. A little tricky to get at the back because the top bar is in the way. But that'll do. That'll do nicely. Then what we do, we'll glue it down. I'll leave that there. So the glue that I'm using is just a bit of Loctite super glue XXL. I've also bought some super glue today as well. Any super glue will work just to hold it down. When you put it down as well, a little tip is to make sure you put a fair amount down so the carbon fibre doesn't lift off when you're cutting it. And when you are putting the frog tape on the carbon fibre, make sure you overlap the frog tape over the carbon fibre so there's no little gaps in between so that you can see carbon fibre, because the result of that, if you had small gaps between here, when you put your super glue down, it'll go straight onto the carbon fibre and absolutely ruin it. So we don't want to do that, so what we'll do now, we're going to glue this down and go from there. Do some wiggly lines, get it nice and even, just so it doesn't come off. That should do it. Now the tricky part is to line it up square to the MDF plate. So we'll plunk that down. Looking pretty good. Put a bit of pressure down on it then. Make sure that glue is set. And that's in there pretty solid. Nope. Drone frame was falling over, don't want that. So, yeah, that should be in there nice and solid. And we are pretty square to the main plate, so we can remove this lovely protection film. And we're ready to cut. So let's go. So a quick update with the CNC cutting of this frame. I ran into a couple of issues that I've had. The biggest issue I ran into was, on my part, I made a stupid mistake. So on the offline controller of the Foxalien XE Pro, you have a switch on the front of it. The switch lets you switch between the offline controller and the PC. So what I did was I put a fresh sheet of carbon fibre on there. Yeah, I did kind of ruin the sheet, but I tried to salvage what I could from it, and I still had that switch set to the offline controller. So when I put the G-code into Universal G-code sender and started the job started coming up with errors on the sender, and it completely ruined the sheet. It started running across all different ways. Holes wasn't cutting straight, not straight, sorry, round. It was offset, the holes. It was a complete mess. So I had a bit of a nightmare with that. I tried to salvage what I could with the carbon fibre sheet that I had. I just ran a cut on top plate, 2 motor arms and 3 motor mounts. which turned out perfect. It was a bit of a headache, to be honest with you, just because of that one switch that I missed. I had no idea how I missed that. It took me a while, so this is the day after from when I started this video. So yeah, so I cut these parts by ear now. I'll get the GoPro now and show you what I've done. But yeah, so once I've used as much as I can on this sheet, I'll put a fresh sheet on here and cut the remaining parts, and I'll show you the finish parts at the end. I'll sand them up, and then I'll show you, and we'll go from there. So there we are. Bit of a eventful cutting session, but it is what it is. So here we have the first sheet. As you can see, it's a bit of a mess. The cut I just made is here. So we got our bottom plate, and we got 2 motor arms, and then we got 3 motor plates here. As you can see, all here is a complete mess. Originally I cut the holes, and everything turned out great. I did get some errors on the sender, but as soon as I got to these holes here, this is where it started to go a little bit messy. As you can see there, it completely jumped the holes. They weren't in exactly the right place, and then it got to this point as well where I was cutting the motor arms, and it started doing these pretty well, as you can see, and then all of a sudden then it decided it wanted to go straight across here for no reason whatsoever. And the main culprit to that was this switch here. If you've got it set to controller while you are trying to input your files through the sender, you will get this complete mess. So all this is a complete waste, which is a shame, but I managed to salvage what I could from this frame. There is some areas I may be able to salvage little parts in, like here, some down by here as well, but other than that, that is it. So what I'll do now is I'll take this out, sand them up, and then put a fresh sheet on, and we'll cut the rest up, and then I'll show you the frame. So we just finished up cutting our last pieces of our frame. I put a new sheet down, as you can see. I've cut the final parts. We got the top plate, we got the 2 side plates that fit on the top, and then we got 2 motor plates as well. On the last cut as well, I like to mention that I forgot to drill the 1.5mm holes, so I don't think I'm going to bother. I'll just probably sand them and get them to fit nice. The reason for drilling small holes here is to make it easier to fit together, but it's not an issue, so I'll leave it like that for now. But yeah, that's pretty much done. So what I'll do now, I'll take these out, and then we'll start sanding them down, make sure everything fits correctly, and we'll go from there. So there's that, and here's the main plate. Yep, there we go. job done. So I'll catch you when I sand these up. I probably won't show you me sanding it up because it's pretty boring. And then what I'll do is I'll show you the frame built together. I'll weigh it up so you can see the weight of it, and then I'll probably build it then. So the idea of building this frame was to take to Switzerland in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, so see you then. So here we have the 9-inch or 8.5-inch drone fully cut. I 3D printed the top section here just to see how it fits, so that will add a little bit of weight. On the rear then I have mounted the XT90 with some M3 press nuts. Underneath them we got 2 slots here for battery straps, and then another 2 slots here. The rest of the holes are just to make it a bit lighter, and then the sort of branding on the bottom of my branding. The way that the FPV camera is mounted on here is on the front, right at the front, so you will never see props in view from this setup. That is the benefit of it. So the FPV camera will fit here, and then at the back here is where the VTX will fit, and then basically I'll run the wire underneath the frame all the way to the FPV camera. Besides that, I was going to mount the GPS in the TPU, but because of the narrow frame I decided to go with 25mm compared to my larger one, which is 30mm. This limits the size of the GPS I can use. I like to use a 30mm GPS, so it's not going to fit in there. So what I'll probably do is I'll design something to go back here. It was slightly offset here, and the GPS will sit back here. So I haven't done that yet. The thickness of the carbon fiber all the way around is 3mm. So the arms are 3mm, the top and bottom plate is 3mm, the side plates here 3mm, and then the motor plates are 3mm as well. Also the FPV camera plates as well, they are 3mm. Apart from the struts, these are actually 5mm, and the way that I have mounted these is that I got a 5mm spacer here, and then you've got 5mm thickness of carbon fiber, and I run a bolt right through it with a nylock nut on the bottom, securing it nice and tight, and this prevents any twisting in the motor arms. There's absolutely no twisting whatsoever, so this is a very rigid setup. Besides that, the way that I'm going to mount the VTX antennas, they will be on the back. Back end of it, we got 2 6mm holes, I think they're slightly bigger, 6mm, and I'll run 2 SMAs here, and then the pigtails will run through this little slot here into the VTX. So that is nice and clean setup. And then up front then you will have your speed controller and the flight controller in the middle here. And then what I'll do is I'll run the motor wire straight across here, and there's a plastic cover that runs on both sides of here, and it'll run through the cover into the speed controller here. Originally I was going to mount run the wires underneath the frame and then up through, but that's just adding complex. It is not very nice to build from my own experience. I've tried it, it looks great, it's very clean, but it's an absolute nightmare to work with. So I'm just going to run the wire straight across here into the speed controller, and the same goes for the front. So that's all that. TPU on the top as well. I'm mounting the GoPro Mini on here, so this mount specifically will only work with the GoPro Mini, but what I'll probably do is I'll make an alternative mount so that you can use it on a normal GoPro, like a GoPro 11 full, not the Mini. So that is the only downside of this. You can run the GoPro full on this, but it would be sitting up here rather than down here, which is the whole point of this design, was to keep the GoPro nice and low to the frame, get the center of gravity all together, and hopefully get a better flight characteristic from it. So what I'll probably do is I'll mount something here, or maybe it'll have to be up here, I'm not sure. I can always flip the GoPro the other way so it goes down this way, but for me, I like the GoPro Mini, and the GoPro Mini fits on here perfectly. On the back of the TPU then I got a sort of duct, so when you're flying it, the air will travel through here, and it's got sort of a rounded scoop inside which will feed airflow into the VTX. The side panels as well, they will have ventilation holes on the side, and they will have exit holes on the back to allow air to go through and straight out the back. So that is everything ready to go. The key thing with these frames as well, with the truss arms, is making sure that these carbon plates are not twisted when you assemble them. They have a tendency, if you don't get the slot holes perfectly right, these motor plate here will angle at an horrible twist, and you will offset your motors at a certain angle. You don't really want that, so you want these 90 degrees to the main frame, perfectly level on all four corners. That can be quite tricky for somebody who have never built a drone before or is new to it. So this kind of frame isn't aimed at a beginner as such. We got our weighing scales here now, and what I'll do is I'll weigh the frame up. This is with the carbon fiber, all the bolts in it, all the standoffs, the TPU on the top, and the XT90 on the rear. So total weight of that is 367 grams. I've calculated it to be about 800 to 900 grams all up, which is pretty decent for a 9-inch. I think a 7-inch can vary from 700 to 800 grams. So this is a nice weight and is a lot bigger than a 7-inch. This should get you some decent range, but it is a small frame, so running a large pack on the bottom of this could become an issue. There is a lot of surface area there to run a large pack, but we'll see. We do some testing and see how it goes. So that is that. So what I'll do now is I'll make another video on building this frame. There's too much to cram in one video, so this will be part 1. Then I'll do part 2 and maybe a part 3. I don't know yet. So this is going to be the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed my journey of building or designing and cutting this FPV drone. I look forward to flying it and showing you the results that I got with this frame. So till next time, see you again.